Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel, and if you're listening in the podcast, thank you so much for being here. It is May 21st, 2023. I'm here to speak about the death of Dr. Rashid Buttar, and in case you don't know who he is, I recently learned about him, but Dr. Rashid Buttar has a great long history of practicing medicine and here in the US, and he also, he's mostly known over the past years to come out and speak against the I don't want to say it before they cancel this video, to come out and speak about what they recommend that will be the cure for the pandemic. I guess I can say that. The first dose, second dose, and third dose, and the booster, and all of that. So he was part of the 12 known professional doctors who came basically against, who came out basically and spoke about against the whole cure that they developed for this whole pandemic. I hope you already know what I'm referring to. So he passed away apparently 3 days ago. Um, I believe that was the May 18, and this is the crazy thing. This is why this is so interesting, because as you guys know, when people say, hey, if I die in the next couple months, whatever, right? If they say something, they suspect something, like I come here and speak about, husband who killed their wife, they say it before they're gonna do it, or like the author who poisoned her husband and then wrote a children's book about healing from losing somebody in the family. He actually said, if something happens to me, it's probably her poisoning me. So this is no different when it comes to Dr. Rashid, because he said that after he did a very well-known interview for one of the big TV networks, he said that he believed he was being poisoned after that. And what happened to him was that he actually entered in the hospital for many, many days. And the thing is crazy, because you can't, fear will make us look at the news and not investigate further, right? Not trying to figure out what is going on here. How can we be so silent? How can we be so silent when people say, if something happens to me, it's probably this and the other, and then something actually does happen days later, and everybody's like, oh, well, whatever, like, too bad for him and his family, let's move on with life. When does it stop? When do we come out and unite and say, wait a second, something is off here? And don't get me wrong, I do understand that things happen, right? Anything can happen. Life is so unpredictable. One day we're here, the next day we don't know. Um, and you just never know what could happen, right? That's why I always say, sign note here, I always say the most important thing that you can do is to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and be right with God, because you just never know. Life is so unpredictable. So going back to the death of Dr. Rashid Buttar, by the way, this is news that you have to actually go out and search for it. This is so crazy how this is not making bigger news. As somebody who was somehow controversial on what he said, not because of what he was saying was the truth or not, but because he was coming against a group of people in power who are saying, no, this is the solution, this is the medicine that's going to cure everything that we're dealing with since March of 2020. And he's basically coming completely against it, somebody in the same field, right? And this is why it's so important for us to pay attention. What they have developed for this cure for the pandemic, you guys know what I'm referring to. What they have developed is the only known medicine, as far as I know, that was sold to the public as something that would work well with everybody, every age. And it's like, are you kidding me? There are things, when you have a headache and you take whatever medication works for you, right? And then you say to somebody, so a friend of you calls you and said, hey, I have a headache, and they're like, oh, you should take this and you're gonna be fine, within 2 hours or something. And then they take it and they're like, oh, it didn't do anything for me, right? Because every medication is not gonna work the same on everybody, right? And I always find it interesting how this came out, and it was globally the solution for everyone, right? And you have somebody like Dr. Rashid in the field, united with another group of other people in his field, other doctors who came out and say, we disagree with everything that's being told about this solution that was created. So this man, Dr. Rashid, came on national television. He did a lot of interviews, a lot of conferences, and one particular one, he after that he said, I believe I was being poisoned after that interview specifically. This is all on video. You can go ahead and research it. He has a huge Twitter account. When I say huge Twitter account, meaning that he had a lot of followers. And this man, I was looking at his Twitter account, and just 4 days ago he was doing a live. He did a lot of lives on Twitter, I guess you can say, and he was speaking about it. I haven't checked his Facebook account yet, but he did a lot of, he didn't seem like he was a person who was struggling with something, right? And like that he was sick or anything like that. He did said he has some health issues that happened right after that interview that he gave, and he believed that he was being poisoned, right? Why would anybody with such a reputation like himself, right, who is basically like, why would he come out and say something like that, right? Somebody who is already, I guess you could say, on a watch list, because he's basically, like I said, coming against so many things that are being, told to the public to do by many big corporations, including the head corporation. You guys know what I'm referring to. Why would anybody come out and say, after I did a huge interview, these people are trying to poison me, or I feel like I'm being poisoned, right? When people say something publicly like that, somebody with such an influence like himself, right? I do believe he already did his own research. He already had his own suspicions, and he already came, with probably other people to the conclusion that yes, he was probably being poisoned, right? You have to understand, doctors, they know, they are the ones who tell people what to do, to avoid certain things, in their health, right? So they are like, if out of anybody, they're probably one step ahead, right? So I just find this so suspicious, all of that. And the other thing is, there's a video that's roaming around the internet about him saying, I'm not suicidal. If anything happened to me, I'm not depressed. Why would this man come out and say something like that, right? What is he seeing on his day-to-day life? What is being presented to him? You don't come out around people who are influential, right? That's not something that you see on a normal basis. People who are influential, and I don't mean like, people who have like 10,000 followers on Instagram, like a fashion influencer, nothing like that. I mean people who are known, who are known by a big majority of people who are coming against, top head, people in positions, I guess you can say. They don't really come out and say things like that, right? Dr. Rashid came out and said all of that, right? He said, I'm not depressed, I'm not this and the other. And 3 days ago, he dies. And we just learned the news about his passing early today, Sunday. And it's so crazy to me that people are going to say, it's maybe he got sick. Like I said, you guys, even perfectly looking healthy people can have anything and they suddenly die, right? Anything can happen, right? So is that a possibility? Yes. But when you look at what he was posting days prior, this man was getting ready for a conference that he was going to join in with other colleagues in I believe that was coming up next week, May 29. 4 days ago, he's on Twitter doing lives, doing, looking perfect. It's not like he got into a car accident. It's not like he got shot by somebody, nothing like that. What I heard, that's the thing. There's barely any news about what happened to him. The family is asking for privacy, and that's completely understandable. That's completely understandable. But you have to understand also, as the public, he was a very public person too. And we need to know, it's like the thing with Jamie Foxx. How weird is the whole thing with Jamie Foxx? How is it that one day he's in the hospital asking for prayer, the next day he's, the families, they say the family's getting ready to prepare for the worst. That's what it came out and said. And right after that, his daughter saying, my dad is doing fine, he was just playing pickleball or something like that. If your dad is doing fine and he's playing ball, you knowing who your dad is, a person in the public eye, you being also an influential person, a celebrity also in your own right, right? Why are you not posting a photo? Because we always looking for evidence, right? If you want to, how do you combat misinformation? How do you combat people who are lying on you? You bring them the truth and say, stop lying on us. Look at the evidence, right? And it is so suspicious, the whole thing that's happening with Jamie Foxx. You can't just be like, oh, he doesn't want to really talk to the public now. The public, all these celebrities, they always say thank you to the fans when they win an award. But when it comes to like us waiting on news, I'm not a fan of him, but I want to know like what's going on, right? When we're waiting on news about him, he doesn't have 10 seconds to post like a story on Instagram and say, hey, everybody, thank you for your prayers. I'm doing fine. I'm out of the hospital. And then when you don't give, you chose to be in a public eye, right? So when you don't provide information about what's happening with you, it leads people to assume, and assumption is everything. It kills the reality of what's happening. And as you can see, the Jamie Foxx family should be able to see how much lie perhaps is being told on him, yet nobody's willing to take and say, hey, let's do a quick video to kill all this misinformation. It's just, I find this whole thing so suspicious, so weird to me, that to this day, when did Jamie Foxx became ill that they say he had to leave the movie, right? It's already been, what, 4 weeks? Probably longer than that. But the same thing with like Dr. Rashid. I understand, like I said, the family is asking for privacy. I totally understand that. But you also need to understand Dr. Rashid became very public. So you also have to give us a little something also as the people looking from the outside and say, this is actually what happened. Because right now, like I said, the news on his passing came out to like the surface 3 days afterwards, right? And not a lot of people know about it. You, like I said, you have to really dig for details, and we are digging for details, especially when we see his content. And a lot of his content that he was posting is about being poisoned, number one, right? So that's a very serious allegation and accusation. And then he's also saying, I'm not depressed, I'm not suicidal. If anything happens to me, why will anybody in such a platform that he had, such a stage that he had, come out and say something like that? And then we're not gonna give anything to the public. But when you don't provide the truth, then it leads to assumption, it leads to misinformation. That's, it's not a good thing, because we don't know exactly what the reality is, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, well, what was this cause of death, right? Some people say, he got bad information. But like I said, this man was doing live 4 days ago, and you can go right now on his Twitter account, just search by his full name, Dr. Rashid Buttar, and you'll see on his Twitter account he was being live 4 days ago, and he looked pretty, pretty normal, right? From what we see on a person, right, from the outside. So somebody posted somewhere, he had a lot of body inflammation and he suddenly had a heart attack or something like that, right? That's the thing, because we don't know, right? It's, it leads to a lot of assumptions, a lot of misinformation. And this happened 3 days ago. I don't really know how long autopsy reports takes. So maybe by tomorrow Monday, we'll be able to get more in-depth information. But then again, that would be good to know. But why would somebody say things like that? Like I said, anything can happen, right? So for somebody to come out and say, I was being poisoned and this and the other happened to me, like I said, somebody in the public eye with knowing, very well knowing that he's very influential because he had a lot of followers, right? You cannot just say, oh, I don't know that a lot of people follow me. Yeah, you know that, when you go live, you have a following, you're very well known, people buy your books, whatever, right? People seek out information from you, so that makes you a very influential person. So what you say, you have to double check what you're saying before, you lead people to believe something that is not. So why would somebody like that come out and say something as far as saying, I'm not depressed, I'm not this or the other, if anything happens to me, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy that he says something like that, and 3 days ago he died under very suspicious, circumstances. And he was actually on his last video. I don't know if it was his last video actually. I watched a couple videos of him. So he was talking about, grow your own food, start having a vegetable garden and things like that. This is coming from a doctor, practicing doctors for many years here in the US. But let me know, everyone, what you think about this whole thing, about the passing, the death of Dr. Rashid Buttar, and anything else that you probably heard about him since this whole pandemic began, right? Like I said, I learned about him not too long ago, and I didn't even, he's a believer also in the, in God. And he said, no matter what happened, you have to remember God is always in control. So I pray for his family. I pray that they find the peace that they so much need right now in these moments. They find it, and that can only be found in the arms of Jesus Christ. So they can come to God in prayer, and God will comfort them, right? So we'll see, more information that might come out about his passing. Like I said, everybody, let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for coming here to my channel and listening in the podcast. My name is Julissa. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. For coming back to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and share this video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day, everybody. God bless. Hi everybody, this is Julissa. I'm here to invite you to my podcast, JulissaDesigns, and it can be found on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can join me every day as I make episodes of the latest news, real life stories, and I also share my favorite Bible verse. Hope to see you then. God bless. Everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you want to know more about me, you can always visit www.JulissaDesigns.com. Have a great day, everybody. God bless.